Oh boy, I think we're live. Using a new streaming setup here. Broadcasting directly from OBS. So I have no idea what's going on up in here. Let me see, can I pull this bad boy up? What the heck? This is absolutely nuts. Just trying to see if it gives me my goodness, I sound quiet. What the heck? This is absolutely nuts. Just trying to see if it gives me God damn, I sound like I'm in a... What the hell? What the hell? This is off to a banging start. Let me see here. Ooh, you know what? Let's turn that up all the way. God damn, I sound like I'm in a... What the hell? This is off to a banging start. Let me see here. Ooh, you know what? Let's turn that up all the way. That seems like that's a little better. Turn that up all the way. That seems like that's a little better. Are you experiencing some kind of time loop? What the hell is going on here? Testing, testing, 1 2 1 2. Are you experiencing some kind of time loop? What the hell is going on here? Testing, testing, 1 2 1 2. All right, well, let's just get down to business then, shall we? Hopefully that's functioning properly. Let's get the music back on. I'm going to turn that down a little bit, just so we're not getting overshadowed by the lovely lo-fi hip-hop mix that we have going here. The perfect music to be productive. Lo-fi hip-hop mix. Lo-fi study, work, chill beats. It's kind of funny, isn't it? The perfect music to be productive. Study, work, chill? It's like we need, in order to be productive, we need something that reminds us what relaxation feels like in order to function properly. Okay, so what are we working on today? I have a boatload of these NPC characters that I need to get out for the purposes of making these little cards that I'm working on, some NPC cards for D&D 5e play. That is the plan as it stands. So we're going to go ahead and attempt that, as it were. and see how these go. So the process that I've been going about here is basically you start with, let's pull up another folder, and I'm going to stick these guys in their own folder here. They're these lovely ladies. So you start with, let's open this one. This is one of the earlier ones. So very rough, kind of chunky block-in sketch sort of thing. I'm just using a big chunky square brush and drawing something in that just on a whim. Nothing too pre-planned here, except the, I guess, basic theme of all these drawings. Originally was supposed to be like some kind of mages guild of mercenaries that all use magic, but they're also all like a fighting class kind of thing. So a little bit of versatility there. And then just kind of noodling based on that. So we go from that, do a draw over with a little bit more detail, but still pretty chunky, pretty blocky, pretty loose. And then, establishing some of the details that are going into that. And then finally drawing over those with just a straight up black inking brush. I'm using primarily the real G pen. So if you're using Clip Studio Paint, the G pen is kind of the classic pen that is used for a lot of stuff. And then the real G pen just has a little more tooth to it. So you can see it has this kind of crispy edge on it. And that just gives it a little more pizzazz, I find. I don't know, the smoothness of the other brush just kind of bothers me for sketching purposes, so I usually go with the real G pen. The real G, as they say. So that's that. So that's this is just an example of some of the finished ones. Let's see what else we got in here. We got this lady. We got these guys. I kind of like this dude. This dude kind of gives me vibes like Balin's skull in the new Ahsoka show. Let's see. These fellas aren't inked yet, so we got some work to do there. These ones I haven't even started. Okay. Yeah, I think we're getting to... Oh, yeah, these ones. These ones were fun. Might do a little extra on these pretty soon here to get the... I want to get these in a state where I can color them over the next couple days. Really basic flat colors so I can get them out on some business cards, actually. Business cards that are going to have stats for each of these characters. So it's got a little, a little fun kind of takeaway thing for people that I'm handing these out to. And I need to get those printed ASAP. So we're going to be working hard for the next couple days to get these ready to go to market, as they say. And we'll start with, I need to balance out my, I had plenty of dudes, but now I need some more ladies up in here. So got this old kind of, I don't know, sorceress lady, and then a chick with a sword and a shield. I feel like I'm doing too many swords. There's too many swords in this set. Maybe I need to mix it up and give her a different weapon. But for now, we're just going to keep going in. We're using this chunky brush. This is, I can't even remember where I got this set, but it's a nice set. Got plenty of fun inking brushes. And yeah, we like to see it. So again, in this phase, we are just kind of noodling around still a little bit. Some of the details we're going to start to establish a little more. And then we will go ahead and ink these fellas up. And yeah, I know some people are a little snobby or whatever about Inktober. Not many people that I've actually met or talked to. I don't think anybody who matters actually cares as regards to like what constitutes real Inktober. Do you have to be using traditional ink? And I think maybe you should just because it's kind of the point of it is to get a little bit outside your comfort zone. And the thing with ink is like once you put it down, you can't really go back and and mess with it. It's not just the style of drawing that it produces, but it's kind of the finality of the drawing. So I can see that perspective that's like, oh, if you do digital inking, it doesn't count. Frankly, I don't care enough. I don't, I'm not a Inktober purist. I barely care about it as it is. And it's been a couple years since I've actually done it, so I might do some traditional sketching this year. But frankly, I need to do a bunch of work digitally, and I figure might as well just roll that into Inktober and just call it a day. Not worry about it too much. Not worry about the. She's looking very doodly. I don't know what I need to do to give her more of a grandmotherly feel. But some old ladies look like just look like dudes, kind of straight up. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you know what? That's just the vibe that we're gonna get. So what's the point of doing all these passes? These passes that are eventually going to be subsumed under. You're not ever gonna see this. And for me personally, it just it's easier to kind of clarify things in stages rather than trying to get all the details in on the first pass. Like there are some artists that are very capable of that. Obviously, the classic example is Kim Jong-gi, R.I.P. Obviously a master at the sort of direct drawing method, just taking an ink or a brush pen and establishing all the details that he needs in one pass. Pretty wild stuff, honestly. But once you kind of understand his thought process, it's not like it's one of those things where understanding it will not give you the ability to do it. But I think there's kind of a misperception about him that he was a kind of a memory savant, like he would just remember all the details that he would need to establish, to draw these really complex machines. And I think it was more so that he would draw them all the time. I don't think it was necessarily like his memory. And then the way that he would kind of establish perspective without construction lines, for example, would be essentially using the details and the line work in the drawing as the sort of perspective reference for the next lines that he would draw. So he's kind of like mastered this ability to use what's already on the page to give him the so-called construction lines for the next phase of the drawing. So I mean, very, very cool method. And I may be speaking slightly uninformed on that, but especially since I don't speak Korean, I've only ever obviously heard this translated through others. But that seems to be his seems to have been the way that he would kind of approach drawing in order to achieve that direct style or that direct method. Anyway, there's other one that comes to mind, although I think he also does like a pre-drawing, like an underdrawing for many of his professional works or comics. Is I don't know the artist's name. I know that on Instagram he's like Koteri Ink, and he does, I think it's called Kings of Nowhere. I haven't read the graphic novel myself, but it's like kind of like a Monkey King situation, like animal people. It's got a very DBZ kind of vibe in terms of like, yeah, it's like people with animal heads, like using kung fu and beating the crap out of each other. And I think it's like set in a kind of a modern setting, so there's like guns and gangsters and stuff. It looks very cool. I've been following him on Instagram now for years, and just seeing, and he posts a lot of these like drawing time-lapse videos, of course, the speed drawings, the speed paintings, And sometimes it's difficult to tell how much is actually there in the undersketch because it's, like in this example, the opacity is turned way down, so you can't exactly see what's going on under there. Anyway, there's really no right or wrong answers there. I think if you're trying to get something more specific, like you don't have a design in mind per se when you start, and you're just kind of doing like what I'm doing here, just kind of noodling around and seeing where things go. I think it helps to do it in stages because then you kind of are forced to think about what you're putting down at each subsequent step. And then you add details, you remove details, you think, oh, does this work? Does that work? Maybe I'll change things up a little. And sometimes things don't change that much at all between these iterations. And it's just, I'm just doing this to get a cleaner under sketch for me to work from when I go to actually put the inks down, right? The quote unquote inks, because they're, it's just light. It's just digital, pixels. It's data. To put the data down. God, that sounds depressing. I'm laying down another layer of data upon this data. I guess that's actually what artists do, generally speaking. Another thing that this process does is be like, oh yeah, this hand and this arm, way too big in the initial sketch, I think. But I did want to emphasize the kind of like, witch-like, wizened old hand. And I think that's fun. And if it's a little bit too big, that's okay because we're exaggerating it with a purpose. The only problem becomes if it just like makes the drawing look too weird and people are like, what the hell's going on with this hand? Maybe we give her some rings. I think we give her some rings. I mean, old, witch type ladies, diviners and sorceresses and those type of old ladies. They love their rings. They gotta have them. So we'll put a few on each finger. Put a big rock on that one. Yeah. And we can, again, add some more of the specific details. Maybe one of these is like one of those like long rings that has kind of like a segmenting, you know what I'm talking about? So it's like flexible. It's got like a joint in it. So you can turn your finger and such. Maybe we do some of that. That seems fun. And again, that's kind of what this process helps clarify. Because when you lay down these sketches, you don't necessarily want to put in all of the specific details. You just want to indicate stuff so that you know to come back and maybe give that some more thought when you do a more final pass. And what I think I'd like to do, another thing that, another piece of this process that isn't related to, as much to each specific drawing, but to the kind of overall, like what is this giant document? I've got like 8 folders with, a few sketches each in each folder. Some of them I will ink and some of them I won't. And they're not variations on one character. But if I wanted this to be more of a portfolio project, I would, and I think I will, take the favorite designs from each of these, my favorite NPCs, the ones that I think have the most kind of story potential to them, and go ahead and take those and do some iteration upon those designs. Make some a couple versions of this witch lady with different headdresses and different clothing and new rings, maybe no rings at all, maybe longer fingers, maybe stubbier fingers, just kind of playing around with those characters, and then having a nice little kind of design sheet produced out of that work. So that's the plan. That's kind of the ultimate plan with these guys. Well, there are several plans, and the thing that I've been trying to do over the last year or so, at this point, is give my work multiple places to live. So that means maybe I'll do some prints of these guys. Maybe I'll turn them into a little booklet with NPCs and stats and stuff, which is something I've been doing with my Pokemon as D&D character series, and I'm excited to actually start doing some of that with my own original designs. But maybe they're prints, maybe they're stickers, maybe they're little looking into getting like little acrylic tokens on stands, which have the character art on them that you can then use on a grid or something in a D&D sort of play setting. So lots of fun ideas, and this is just the early steps of the process of bringing some of those ideas to life, and honestly, it's really fun. These sketches, I actually started the bulk of them while I was tabling at a convention in Chicago, and you get a lot of downtime depending on how dense the crowds are, how many sales you're making, etc. And at this particular show, I had a lot of downtime. It wasn't a total bust or anything, but and sometimes it's difficult to work on really, especially because right now I'm on my tablet at home. I'm comfortable. I've got no one watching me, over my shoulder, that is, and no one watching me in here right now. So I'm just rambling to myself, which is also fine and great. But where was I going with that? Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to do like really hyper focused like detail work or or what have you. So I get into kind of sketch mode, right? I just lay down these big blocky kind of initial character sketches and sort of see where they go. Just see what's going on with those, and yeah, that's a lot of fun. So anyway, we're gonna keep noodling around on this old grandma lady, but and I'll keep yakking away to myself, which is great. We love it. I love the sound of my own voice just as much as the next guy. I hope you guys can hear me okay after that initial test, which was a little bit rough and ready, a little rocky. But yeah. I've been watching Ahsoka, which I don't really know. I don't know why I bother with most of the Disney stuff, honestly. Ahsoka is not terrible by any means. It's certainly a lot better than the Book of Boba Fett, which was a kind of a train wreck. But the Book of Boba Fett, however, at least approached a state where it was almost so bad that it was funny. It wasn't quite funny. It was just kind of like cringe and boring. And Ahsoka, on the other hand, is it looks very good. The design work on Star Wars has always been pretty good, with some notable exceptions, of course. But the design work on Ahsoka is really fun. I like the witches. I like the whole. I like all their little henges. I think that's fun. What I don't like about the show is the characters, for the most part. The characters are kind of insufferable, or they're either insufferable or boring or inscrutable and mysterious on purpose, but in such a way that you're like, am I going to be massively disappointed when it's finally revealed like what this character's like real intentions are? And I mentioned Balin Skull earlier, the actor I think played by Ray Stevenson, who I just learned passed away in May. He passed away before the show even aired, which is really sad. And honestly, I do like him in that role. I think he's a good, intimidating, sort of mysterious presence. You can't tell what his intentions are. He seems like he has, he seems to think he's a doing the right thing. Whether he thinks he's good or not, I don't know if I go that far. But he certainly seems to think that he has some kind of noble mission, and I'd be interested to see what that is. I haven't seen I don't know if the final episode's even out. It might drop tomorrow, is that right? Anyway, I like some aspects of the show. I dislike others, and we'll kind of see how it all falls. Third season of Mandalorian, absolutely god-awful nonsense. Just, sort of like... I almost wish they had gone back to just a fully episodic kind of format with Mandalorian, because that seems to be the only way to make Baby Yoda kind of make sense. Like, I don't know. It's just a show that seems to have kind of lost its purpose, and I think they didn't really know exactly what to do with it, and they want to tie it in, the constant efforts to tie everything in to the other events in the Star Wars universe, and it's just like not necessary for a show about like some kind of like Pedro Pascal's character is kind of a meathead. Like, he's not particularly smart. He's not even I think it's funny, he's not even like a particularly good fighter, because he's constantly getting wailed on, and the only thing that saves him is Beskar, and I don't know, it would be nice to would have been nice not to just see more fun kind of action stuff and kind of the Western sort of vibe that they had going with those earlier seasons. It would have been fun to see more of that rather than, weird tangential missions with what's-her-face, Bo-Katan, trying to establish her as like the leader. I couldn't imagine something I could care less about than those characters. And in Ahsoka, it's kind of similar. It's like there's all this pre-established lore and character stuff with things from Rebels and Clone Wars, and it's like, I do not have time to go back and watch like literally hundreds of episodes of these old cartoons just to feel something about Ahsoka and about what's her bucket. Oh gosh, what is her name? Now I'm like spacing on the name of the character, even. Jeez. Well, I'm gonna look it up. I have to. Now I'm like, it's gonna bother me unless I figure it out. Ahsoka characters. Sabine Wren, in this show, in the new show, is absolutely insufferable. Just constantly making mistakes, the kind of mistakes that are made like to advance the plot, like constantly doing dumb stuff. And it's kind of similar for like Ahsoka's character, because she sort of has to like not acknowledge that Sabine is like totally incompetent in order to advance the plot. It's just frustrating to watch in a way that's like, it doesn't feel realistic. It doesn't feel, I guess realistic is the wrong word, but it doesn't feel intuitive. It doesn't feel like, it's like, oh, a person would actually, like a person with these experiences would actually do this, like a rebel war veteran, would they behave in this way? And it just feels like no. Feels like the answer to that is no. And then there are all these little like details, these moments that they add into the story to sort of like establish character in a kind of like there's this weird thing in movies and shows where they always say to show don't tell, but sometimes you can do the showing in such a blatant and obvious way where it's like the audience immediately thinks, oh, they're trying to tell me this, right? And so you sort of like loop back and because you are attempting to show something in a way that like, either it doesn't make sense in the context of what's happening in the story or the context of what these characters should be like or should be doing. And it ends up just coming off as like very forced and weirdly expository, even though you're just seeing like images on the screen, right? And mainly I'm thinking of the scene where they introduce Sabine in this show, and she's like running away from some big event. Like she shows up to the event and then she drives away on her little motorbike, and they have to go chase her down, and she does this really reckless move with her little speeder bike thing. And you're left thinking like, why did she even show up in the first place to this little shindig if she was just gonna leave? And the whole point of it is like to show that she's a rebellious kind of spirit, and she doesn't take orders well, and she doesn't like authority, and she's kind of a firecracker, And when you think of it in those terms, it's like, well, they could have just told us that. And it would have had the same kind of dramatic effect and the same, level of interest involved. It's just like, oh, but we showed you with this scene what the character is like. And it's like, well, yeah, you did, but it was so like obvious that you're just sort of like, waiting for the scene to end. There's a lot of that in Ahsoka where you're just kind of like waiting for the scene to be done because because the point of the scene has already been established. It was established almost immediately. It was like, there's not much thinking that has to be done. There's not a lot to consider. You're never unsure of the choices that the characters are going to make. And, that can work in situations like, for example, Game of Thrones with Ned Stark. He's like a doomed character. His morals and his sort of like, need to be chivalrous put him in situations where he's just going to end up screwing himself over and really and in a predictable way. But it's fun that it's predictable because you're just like waiting for that shoe to drop. You're just waiting for him to put himself in that situation. You're wondering, oh, when is this finally going to come and bite him in the ass? And with Ashoka, it's just like, we know exactly how this is going to bite them in the ass. We know, like, from the very outset, and we don't care about this character enough to give a damn about that, happening. So, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to talk about it because Star Wars is one of those things that is so rich with like visual and design stuff, and it's just but the quality of the final product in Star Wars is like wildly inconsistent, because of the way that Disney has managed it, but also, of course, because of the way that George Lucas handled it. And it's one of those things where, for example, you look at major film franchises like The Terminator, and I can't remember if maybe it was like a Red Letter Media thing they were talking about. The fact that, The Terminator is this series, this legacy IP that's constantly being rebooted, constant attempts to, try and make new movies and produce new content based on it, and they all suck. And then you go back and you realize that this franchise which spans like decades, with multiple different iterations and movies and reboots and what have you, has basically produced like two good movies, right? It's got like the Terminator and Judgment Day, and those are the two good things that have come out of it. Alien is very similar in that regard. That's because these movies had very simple premises, and then when they start diving into the lore and trying to expand on that, the stuff that people like think is cool, stuff that like producer or like sort of cool to speculate on, but it's not actually cool to like watch it play out per se. Like it's not to say that a good job couldn't be done with that, but it isn't what made those movies hits. It's just not like the Terminator is almost more of a slasher horror movie. It's just got like a different monster / villain than a lot of those movies from that era. And then Judgment Day is just like a very solid action movie with a very simple an obvious set of stakes that you can really get invested in and enjoy. And there's fun characters, and I don't know. It's just one of those funny things that people keep trying to revive. Whereas Star Wars, I think there is more run room there because it's supposed to be set in this like expansive universe with all these aliens and stuff, and there are things that you can do and have been done with it that are really fun and interesting. Stories in the video games and comics. I haven't played any of the recent games, and I don't think I've ever read a single Star Wars comic. I've heard they're good, and I've heard that Clone Wars was good for what it was. I tried watching a couple episodes of Clone Wars the other day, and frankly, it was they kind of bored me to tears because they're made for kids, and this is like the early stuff too. It's like God, anything would have looked good compared to the prequels, the actual content they gave us. Because George Lucas was really just looking to sell toys. The guy was a madman for toys. He loved the idea of being able to sell a good toy, to like a million kids. That's pretty much the mentality that is carried over into the Disney acquisition of Star Wars, which is fine. More power to them. Andor was very good. Like I said, they keep it's like wildly inconsistent. There is some really good stuff that has been made as a result of Star Wars, the commodification of Star Wars. Like I never would have expected, the character from Rogue One to, produce one of my favorite shows in that universe. But lo and behold, Andor, very high quality product. I will say that like visually, Andor is also probably the most impressive, like even more impressive than Ahsoka, just because of that director and producer's commitment to the more traditional filmmaking style, building real sets, and even some of the scenes in like the junkyards in that show in Andor, the scrap yards where they're taking apart those old Imperial ships and everything. Some of those, I don't know exactly. I should look this up and figure out how they produced those, because some of them look kind of like old school, what do you call those? Like matte paintings. And it looks like a painting almost, like in a way where it's more realistic than you'd get in kind of those old style movies. But it is either, CG that is sort of produced in such a way that it's meant to look like one of those matte paintings, and it has this like, there are things that like look new but they still give you a nostalgic bump, and that did that for me. I don't know, it was like something about the way that they had all the ships drawn and like sort of the occlusion on them. It just looked very painterly and fun, and I really liked that. Whereas Ahsoka kind of goes for a much simpler aesthetic. Because everything's supposed to be ancient and old and, made of rock. It's like all of these old, what do you call them? Like henges? Yeah, like these old henges that have these, very simple kind of system symbols on them, like old style, like star map kind of stuff. And that is and it's a pretty cool aesthetic, but it also it does like at times kind of like it's very mystical in comparison to what you usually get in Star Wars, which is very industrial, very mechanical, and in such a way where you can like all the ships, you can just see all the shit on them, like at least especially in the original movies and in the sort of post prequel Star Wars universe. It's like all of the ships are very blocky, and like I said, you can see all the detail on them. So all right, I'm kind of getting as I'm rambling about Star Wars, getting away from these designs a little bit, and I need to kind of go back and think about these ladies a little more. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to turn that off. We're going to go... Which one of these needs some attention? I could kind of go in and do these guys. I do like these guys. I just don't know what exactly... Yeah, maybe we'll go in and do these guys. I kind of like that idea. I like the sitting pose on this guy. A little bit different. I haven't varied the poses enough, I feel, on some of these, and I'd like to do that a little further. So let's go ahead and turn down the opacity. While we're here, why don't we grab a sip of coffee? Oh no, my coffee! I left it in the kitchen. I'll be right back. My dog keeping us company while I'm away. He probably heard something outside. Probably another dog. He barks at other dogs specifically. Not a particularly surprising dog trait, but he's usually such a chill boy. You never know how dogs are going to end up. When you raise them, you try to do your best. It's like with kids. Try to do your best, and they just sometimes they end up with little quirks that you wouldn't expect. But that's just what being a dog dad is like, and sometimes there ain't not much you can do about it but love them. You know what I'm saying? And for the record, he's a very good boy. He's a most excellent boy. Yeah, I wanted to give this guy like a little classic soldier hat kind of thing. But I don't have a ton of other intentions for him. He's an orc, I think. I think we're doing an orc, half orc or orc, kind of guy here. Probably a half orc because he's got like a staff of some kind. Again, this whole doc kind of started as like these are members of some kind of battle mages like mercenary company, or they're contractors for hire kind of thing. I want to do like a little set of cards and a little manual that includes a bunch of them. So I like the idea of giving this guy kind of a round, not a round, but like a square blocky face. Just make him look very like career soldier, sort of like dumpy. Not dumpy, just blocky kind of dude. Very practical. He's got his little helmet here. I could afford to make that a little more pronounced. And that classic like English and Norman style helmet of old. Nothing too fancy for this guy. He's a soldier. He has seen many battles. And, he doesn't... that's... it looks a little too square and blocky. I don't know if I like that. But we'll roll with it. We'll just see how it turns out. We can always change gears, switch gears as we get a little further into the design process and get into that next inking phase with this guy. And I don't know, it looks like I intended to give him some kind of scale mail shirt. So we'll go ahead and indicate that here. And it looks like maybe some splint greaves or something, or not greaves, but gauntlets. And I did these initial drawings a couple weeks ago, which I don't think is, it's not necessarily a bad thing to like sit on your sketches for a little while before you go back and try and finish them. Because if you do it all in one go, sometimes there are things that just sort of escape your attention that you would have wanted to change had you given it more time, or like you forget what you were intending. And sometimes it's not a bad thing because it means that whatever vibe or whatever idea you were trying to indicate with your sketch wasn't actually clear enough or interesting enough for you to retain it. So maybe it's not worth it. This is just me trying to put the silver lining on. What if you forget what you were, what your intended idea was for a drawing, and maybe it was a really good idea and you just didn't draw it well enough. I mean, that's also the possibility that you run into there, of course. But I think with this one, it was more so just the pose and the sort of like vibe of the character. I'm actually, looking at this more, I think I am going to redo the face. That's okay. I want his face to be a little less pronounced, a little more kind of subsumed under this helmet, and maybe a little less detail so we can kind of clarify that stuff as we go along later in the process. Like maybe his eye isn't even open. He just kind of, maybe he's napping. Maybe he's sitting napping. No, I don't. I feel like he'd be alert. I don't love this either, but that's okay. Yeah, his head just feels too big now. I don't know why. His face feels too big. I gave him a sword here, but maybe more like a pickaxe or something would be. It's like I said earlier, I'm putting too many swords on these characters. So maybe something more like a war pick or a war hammer, which again I can customize later. But I think I like that idea better already. Yeah, sort of like looped into his belt, maybe. It's got like a loop hanging down. And this thing is like a scarf, but I don't know if I want it to be like a full cloak. Got like a little scarf on of some kind. So I've done that with a few characters, and you need, I don't know, you need some kind of drapery sometimes to just give your characters more interesting silhouette. And it's, not as if they wouldn't have this kind of stuff necessarily in a medieval setting. Like cloaks are very common. Coats, not as common, like in the way that we think of a coat, just because sleeves are hard. Like you can just wear your everyday clothes and then throw a blanket on yourself, basically a glorified blanket, and be good to go. So why wouldn't you just do that if you were cold? Take another sip of coffee here. Very nice. Pause to stretch my neck a little bit. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, now he's like his face is too pudgy. don't know. Again, like this is one of the problems with working with these sketches where you don't really know exactly what your intention was. Maybe I like the idea of him being a little more gaunt. Maybe few weeks on the road, on the campaign trail, have left him a little more tired than he normally might be. I always thought it was funny too. Like mages in games. Going back to D&D, not being proficient in armor or armor imposing some kind of penalty on spell casting is a pretty common trope, and it's of course it's more of a mechanical trope to balancing trope than it is like a realistic thing. Because like if you were on a battlefield of any kind, why wouldn't you want to be wearing whatever armor is like the best for protecting yourself from any common threat that you might face? And it would probably not hinder you enough that you couldn't cast spells. If you're already like in the midst of battle, then spell casting is already going to be difficult. And why wouldn't you want to just benefit from a little bit of extra protection? And I've seen like I don't know if you've ever seen these videos of like a soldier like a U.S. Army Ranger like racing like in full gear and full their backpack and everything and all the pounds they're wearing, like racing a guy in traditional like plate armor through an obstacle course. And the plate armor is surprisingly gives you a surprising amount of mobility, and I think surprising from like a layman's perspective. Although I think like if you think about the contexts in which this stuff would have been used, mobility is obviously really important, and so well-crafted armor would allow you. It's not like putting yourself in like a hermit crab shell, or like turning you into like a tortoise. It's more like it's supposed to just be a layer on the outside of your existing anatomy that'll give you the same kind of joints and mobility that you would have normally, or to as great a degree as possible. Even though it's also incredibly heavy, but because the weight is distributed all over your body, it makes it a little easier to manage. It's like this guy is just taking a rest on a rock, and then it's back. He's getting ready to get up. It's back to marching. They've just gotten their orders. He's kind of like, what the hell? Already? I don't get paid enough for this shiz, as they say. Yeah, I do like this war pick that I gave him instead. It's the other thing, like swords. Not necessarily the best weapon for like a standard issue soldier, because they actually do require a decent amount of skill to utilize effectively. Whereas something like a war pick, yeah, you just stick that thing. I mean, you can just punch right through most armor if you get the right angle on that blow. It's a lot easier than stabbing somebody with a sword, where the point requires a little bit of precision. It's not just a gimme, like in the movies. So, At any rate, it looks like we might have one person in here watching with us. Hello, hello. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm in the Midwest. It's been beautiful out here. We had like some really great weather yesterday. My parents are obsessed with pickleball, so I had to go out and play pickleball with them. I'm not particularly good at it, and it was very hot. We were in direct sun, and my God, it was very nearly approaching a harrowing experience. Sweating buckets out there. Some kind of big rock, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't really matter what he's sitting on. Yeah, I mean, maybe it does. It can matter, for these kind of like little design sort of things. And I haven't really given much thought to this this staff of his. Just sort of cool shape for the staff, which is something I should give more thought to, of course. It's one of his most important elements as a character. Kind of staff he wields, especially for the context of something like a D&D, You give thought to the staff because your player characters are going to want to pick that thing off his corpse after they murder him. Be like, what does the staff do? Like, I don't know, I just gave him a staff so he could cast spells. It's not special or anything. I needed something to give him. Yeah, players can be a pain in the ass. Always asking to talk to people. Always complaining when they don't get enough loot or you haven't figured out what the hell the loot actually is. Always identifying items. You have to be like, I don't know what I was thinking, giving this guy a magic knife. I don't know what the knife does. Shit. It's okay. It's okay. It's nothing to get worked up about, that's for certain. Okay. Let's see what this guy looks like after the... Alright, yeah, so we need to do a little bit more with the interiors. I just like the pose of his little foot here, too. Sort of like resting on the ground. Yeah, he's definitely getting ready to get back up. Get back up and hit the road. About to hoist himself with his arm here off of the rock. Let's go over to this guy, though. Let's see what he's got going on. I think clearly some big old hefty brows here on this feller. Got a big old axe thing. Have his teeth jutting maybe a little bit more. Giving a nice pronounced silhouette on his face here. His cheekbone coming out. This guy definitely does have a squarish kind of jaw. Just sort of a basic, I don't know what I was intending with his hair. Maybe he has a little more coming down here. Give him some more of that hair, yeah. This guy also has, some sort of scarfy thing on him. And maybe we don't want that, I don't know. And I don't know what I was intending for his armor either. That's probably why I haven't come back to this sketch. I do like his big cleaver thing. Maybe try and clarify that a little more. Looks like it has this kind of loop back in here, yeah. Maybe some leather straps on there around the old handle. This is a guy who's not wielding the sword. That's good. I don't know if I want to give him a pauldron necessarily. Maybe just like these shoulder pad kind of things. Maybe a half plate kind of armor going on here, as opposed to a full plate situation. This guy's definitely more of a front lines kind of axeman. And another thing here is this sort of looser sketching style is nice for things like streaming, because once you really are trying to achieve maximum clarity and cleanness with your lines in that more later inking stage, I find that's a little bit tough to do while trying to carry on a conversation, especially with yourself. It's actually, I think, easier to do when you're riffing off of somebody. You don't have to think about as much, you know? Somebody else is supplying some of the content for the for the situation. It can be nice. Boy, I just realized I haven't had breakfast. It's starting to catch up with me a little bit here. Might have to do me a bit of breakfast. Here it is at over here in Eastern time, 10:30 in the morning. Not too crazy late for breakfast. And my parents were in town, so they had to stop by this morning and pick up a couple things before they skipped town. And as a result of that, I didn't even think about doing breakfast. So I'm like, I don't want to make breakfast in front of them. That means I'll have to make them breakfast before they skedaddle on out of here. I had to avoid that fate at all costs. I mean, it wouldn't have been the end of the world or anything if I had to make my parents breakfast, but god damn, sounded pretty tasty right about now. I think, yeah, maybe this is just a cloth. It's just like the rest of his tunic, his under tunic that's coming down here. Okay, yeah, he's got a big backpack on. Think about the straps on those. So it come down more like... sort of come down at an angle like so. This guy's a big eater. He's got a frying pan. Never leave home without it. It's a good additional piece of weaponry too, if you ever find yourself in need. Again, baby steps in clarifying the details. Baby steps. You don't want to jump into it whole hog. You want to go too hog wild. Ah, this makes me want some pork. My mom made some pork. I sound like a real mama's boy right now. Ah, my parents were in town. I had to play pickleball with them. I had to play pickleball with the olds. A sport developed to keep them out of the grave just a little bit longer. Guy's scarf coming down here a little bit. Maybe they're traveling in a, again, mercenaries. This guy's got some kind of magic cleaver. Traveling to their next destination, and they hear a branch snap in the woods along the side of the road. An ambush, perhaps? Best be on the ready. I've been putting these like little like framing pieces of wood or whatever on a lot of these backpacks. I'm not exactly sure how they're supposed to work, so I should probably stop doing that. But I like the silhouette that it creates. I like it adds a little more interest up in this area. Yeah, it's definitely more like traveling clothes that this guy has on right now. This will give him black hair, kind of. I mean, right now it's blue, of course. Yeah, sort of a helmet cut going on. So he might normally be wearing a helmet, but not today. Perhaps that will spell his doom. The fact that he is not wearing a helmet as intended. These guys are definitely a little simpler. This happens when you start from the ground up on stream. You gotta concentrate on too many things at once, such as your hunger pangs that must be sated. Just sit back and reflect a moment on this. Take a sip of coffee. Ooh, I'm going to drop this link in the chat. Oh, wrong link. I'll just go ahead and get the link while we're chilling for a moment. I launched a TeePublic store, which has several fun T-shirts on it, and I think they're discounted right now. So what that means, unfortunately, is that I only get like $1 off of each sale, but it's better than producing your own T-shirts without a game plan. So I'll just drop that right in the old chat box there. Oh yeah. Yeah, but it'll be there for, I almost said posteriors, but what's the word I'm looking for? It'll be there for your ass. Posterior. I actually don't know what word I was intending to say. it'll be there for people. It'll be archived in the annals of YouTube. If you want to grab that link, you can also go to my website, nategdraws.com. Click store. It'll take you there. And then once my Etsy shop or whatever ultimate shop I choose, that stuff will be linked there as well. So you can pick up prints and the new NPC cards and all that fun stuff that will be coming for the holidays. Okay. So we got like another pass on these fellas. Again, didn't really establish as much detail as I'd like, but it clarifies their silhouettes a little more. Clarifies some of the ideas a little more. Not loving them, though. Got some little goblin fellers. Looks like I was attempting a rogue here. This lady's got some kind of Hades vibe going on. Megara from Hades. Megara, Meg. However you want to say that. I could do some of these. This is, I kind of like this chick. Maybe we'll do a little bit of that. Let's see. That's interesting. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Okay. Sometimes you got to start with the face because the character is not real until they have a face. They don't need the rest of the stuff until they exist, until they have more of their personality kind of explicated by the expression or the I think a circlet of some kind on this one. Kind of fun. She has like a little fro or something, maybe. Her proportions are probably going to be a little off. She's very tall. I feel like her stance is kind of weird. I'll try and get more of a traditional torso kind of thing going on here. Something going on with the shield. I don't know exactly what I was intending with that. I think the angle that she's at is a little bit weird. To go off script a little bit with this the legs. Now, in this case, we're sort of redoing the pose a little, so it's not as focused on kind of establishing what the details are supposed to be. Rather, it's working out some of those more mechanical aspects of the body. Trying to make sure they look natural. I don't know. I need to give her, again, too many swords. I need to give her a different kind of weapon. Maybe something more similar to what I gave that other guy. Or maybe it is a type of sword, but it's more like a cleaver type sword, or maybe it's kind of more curved and scimitar like. I don't know. I think she's got plate mail on. Yeah, it's interesting the way plate mail is actually designed. It has this kind of like center line that kind of juts out. And obviously, that's to put, I mean, not obviously, but it's put space between you and whatever is striking you. A nice round dome around your, well, not round dome entirely, but it's typically like curved, with the center line there, so that it can sort of deflect the oncoming blows away from your midsection, which has a bunch of obviously really important vital organs in it. So you want to keep that as protected as possible. Maybe I give her, I'm not, I think just the problem with shields on some of these, I've noticed, like giving these characters shields, is you don't want to cover up the rest of their design, and so the shield maybe comes later. Or we can even do it like, where she's got her shield like sort of held like this, and her sword in this hand. Maybe she's a lefty. Or whatever we want to give her, in this hand. Maybe a lance or something could be fun. It's a little bit long. I mean, long, not for a lance, but for where this is going to end up. I don't know. She seems like a sword gal, though. It's the other thing. Sometimes, even though you need some variety, you also got to go with the direction that the sketch kind of gives you. Not worry too much about it. Again, could go back and in the subsequent iterations of this character, try out some different weapons with her. Hope y'all are enjoying the chill beats we got going down here. They're almost a little too relaxing, I don't know, for these sort of intense characters. Maybe a kite shield. some kind of insignia on it. Oh, we're loading. Loading. Okay. Don't forget to save. Save your work often, folks. You never know when something could happen. I've been bad. I haven't been saving. I was kind of thinking like, you know what? Now I'm not loving her silhouette with the way she's holding her sword. I think I'd rather her be holding it more in a vertical way. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Just don't have enough room. It's all right. We can make room later. But I like her standing at the ready more of a sentinel. Even though she doesn't have her shield raised, it's sort of like feels like she could just pop it up and grab onto it at a moment's notice. That's kind of what I want to go for. And she's got a flowing cloak, I think, trailing behind her. Paladin vibes, for sure. Maybe the circlet has some kind of holy symbol on it. We can do a symbol here of some kind. Maybe look at some D&D lore. Symbol here, right? Maybe it's the crest of a great eagle. An eagle. Eagle. Some kind of bird that looks like a turkey. She's got the insignia of a turkey on her breastplate. A turkey to be feared by her enemies. Okay, I like where that's going, but I think I might need some armor reference for some of this. Just something a little more concrete than going off memory. That's always important. But I feel like this isn't a bad place to kind of drop things for today. Not for today, but for the moment. I might come back on stream a little later. Once I've made some decisions about where we want to go next with this. As I just need to eat. I gotta get my munch on, you know? Yeah, bigger head on her for sure. To play with the proportions on that a little bit, but it's not looking too bad. Yeah, I think we like that. We like it enough for this phase of the drawing. Obviously much more to be done here in this phase still, but that's okay. Here's some of the ideas down. And I think we'll call it there, ladies and gents. All right. Well, thanks for sticking around and watching. I'm going to be back on later today, hopefully, and we'll keep on trucking away at some of these quote-unquote Inktober digital drawings, in addition to maybe some more stuff. So I had this little series. This is the cleric, and then there was also the philosopher. Yes. So those were fun little pieces that I put together. Actually, technically before October started, but I've been posting them as like Inktober sketches, and I think that's fine. Gonna do some more of these and just kind of play with the ideas. And I'm thinking of maybe going with doing some kind of oracle deck with these dudes. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that's where we're headed next, and we'll leave it there. All right, toodles, folks.